to the 6th episode of Inside the Salesforce Ecosystem, where we dive deep with the experts and trailblazers shaping the future of Salesforce. I'm your host, Luke White, and in every episode, we explore unique journeys, challenges, and insights of those who make the ecosystem thrive. In this episode, I'm delighted that we're joined by Daris Paulino, Salesforce consultant and CEO at Lightning Leap Consulting. Lightning Leap are composed of Salesforce-certified consultants who specialize in delivering impactful solutions for their customers. So, thank you very much for joining me today, and thank you for carving out some time. I know it's a busy time as the year's kicking off, etc. So thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Absolute pleasure. So let's kick off. Let's jump in. So yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself and sort of your role today at Lightning Leap.
Yeah, of course. My name is Daris Paulino. I originally immigrated from the United States at the age of 9 from the Dominican Republic. I got my passion into technology through my uncle's radio shop that was literally right next door to the house. I used to get in after they would leave for the day and actually mess with their radios, and they would find out it was me because there would be like screws missing and things just wouldn't be working. Right around the age of 14, I started getting into technology. That's sort of what brought me into the ecosystem with Salesforce. My current role as a Salesforce consultant, let's see here. So I've been consulting in Salesforce for roughly about 7 years, more or less. I started out solely by myself, just focusing on really just looking for challenges. That was it. I just needed challenges because when I came in, I was a junior developer. I wasn't getting enough challenges. And, you know, from that point forward, we started diving into web development, mobile apps, and things like that. But they really are with the sole focus of Salesforce. Most of our clients, they really are innovative. They're people with visions, people with ideas in mind. We're always looking to push Salesforce beyond what we believe it should be, you know, whether that's changing up the UI for it to be something that's a little more specific to the client, or maybe is diving into how, you know, certain automations can really save them time. But, you know, yeah, been consulting roughly about 7 years, started by myself, and now we've got a small team of people working together.
Oh, good. That's really good. So you never fancy sticking in the radio world then and joining the uncle and stuff and doing that, or do you still tinker a little bit? Or?
I used to tinker, actually. I was before I got into Salesforce, I was building slot machines for a big gaming company here in the area that I'm located in Atlanta. But no more. I'm just solely software now, cloudware. No more radios, at least for now.
Indeed. So you said you've been in Salesforce for sort of like 7 years or so. Why Salesforce? There's loads of other different solutions. What was the thing about Salesforce that got your interest?
I think Salesforce honestly almost picked me. You know, when it's almost like a sign. I was fresh out of college at the time, and I was looking for something new. And I'm looking through LinkedIn, and I keep seeing Salesforce, and then I'm looking somewhere else, and we drove by the Salesforce building, which is only like 20 minutes from my house. And I was like, what is Salesforce? I didn't know what it was at the time. I had no idea. It was like a foreign language, but I was like, I mean, there's got to be a market for it. There's so many postings here. So I'm talking to my wife, and she's like, why don't you apply to it? I'm like, I'm not qualified for that. Like, what am I doing applying for that? I'm not qualified. Long story short, I applied to a job I was not qualified for. They gave me an opportunity. I came in as a junior Salesforce developer. And right around the time that I came in, you know, me being junior, but I had already had 7, 8, maybe 10 years of work experience. I needed more of a challenge than what I was getting, which was very basic things, you know. So I thought that's really what drove me straight into consulting. Now, but like I said, like what brought me into Salesforce, I think Salesforce picked me, but I decided to stay because of the people. You know, in a lot of the different areas or markets you go into, there may be gatekeeping. I have not had that experience with Salesforce at all, and that's been at least, again, my own experience. So I share that with everybody as well. If they ask me, hey, what do you do? How do I get into it? I share them. I share with them. I teach them if I can, because that's how people were with me when I first came in, and I didn't know anything about the ecosystem.
No, so that's really interesting, and actually it tailors into the next question as well. I think Salesforce has a community, so I think that's interesting. So 7 years is a good stint so far in the Salesforce ecosystem for sure. So how have you seen the community and the ecosystem evolve during that time?
Yeah, absolutely. The biggest evolution that I would say that's come into the ecosystem is AI. We're starting to make use of it. You know, Salesforce released its agents. There's a lot of instances where, for me, for example, you know, you may be running into a relatively complex formula. There's a specific maybe value missing, and you maybe don't necessarily have the time to look through that specific formula and look for the value. There's tools that before you'd have to go through Google, or if you're looking, doing something that's really complex that either nobody's done before, or maybe there's very little information about it before, you'd have to comb through forums and maybe even make your own posting, or spend hours, 10, 20 hours figuring it out yourself, right? Really grinding through it. AI now, you're in a spot where you're no longer spending 10 hours, right? Like if I need to write a Python script, I might not be a Python expert, but I know a tool that could potentially help me with the overall structure of how I need to write Python, and me understanding the language, I can sort of piece it together the rest of the half of the way. So AI has been hands down the thing that's really been evolutionary, not just to Salesforce, but to technology as a whole. Another thing has been flows. When I first got into the ecosystem, flows were relatively young. Nowadays, you can use the flows for pretty much anything. We built almost an entire applications for flows. We've got some clients using an application for their partners to do LED signs, for example. If you want to get a quote, you go and get quoted, and a PDF quote gets sent to you directly to your email. And all of that is powered through flows and the use of other third-party applications. And that, to me, it's revolutionary. The main reason why is because you don't always need a developer to help write some code to make some updates. If you have an admin or somebody who's relatively tech savvy, they can maintain your stack without you having to go and pay X amount of dollars to maintain it, to keep a developer. But it means that ultimately the entry to get into Salesforce becomes cheaper because you're using technologies that are easier to maintain.
No, that's a good point, and I think AI is everywhere. Yeah, it's definitely not going anywhere, and we know that Salesforce are investing a lot into Agentforce, and any of us in the Salesforce ecosystem, that's all we ever hear at the moment is Agentforce, Agentforce, Agentforce. So it's definitely sticking around, and I think there's still some I think some kinks to iron out for sure, but it's definitely becoming more and more prevalent for sure, and you can see it all. Yeah, Google, Microsoft, Amazon, they're all doing it. I think if you're not doing AI, then you're falling behind. Yeah. So it's fine. It's finding that balance, isn't it, between where AI helps and where it can hinder as well. So I think that
you definitely can't rely on it too much.
And I think we're all at that stage where at the moment everyone's on a sort of the same level playing field. Like we all know sort of the same amount of AI because it's not been here long enough to have 10 years of experience. So it's like it's still new. So it's it's important. A younger brother works in IT as well. I said, just get on some AI stuff. He's in support, but just get on some AI stuff because at the moment everyone's at the same level. So if you can jump ahead, jobs, the top jobs soon are going to be essentially with AI. Yeah, because someone's still got to write it. Someone's got to work behind it.
Absolutely.
So this is always a difficult question because if I think about answering this question myself, it's nearly impossible. But I always like to throw it out there anyway. But what's a typical day look like for you?
No, I'll tell you the truth. The typical day depends on the season. There may be seasons where we're just very slammed, very busy. And I tend to not be a person, I tend to not carry ego into the workplace. I don't want to be the smartest person in the room. If I am, then there's something wrong. The reason why I say that is, I try to delegate as much of the work as I can as possible to people that may know more than I do. The typical day for me, though, I try to get at least an hour. Ideally, try to get at least an hour before work to just know that it's not all about work. Going in, if you wake up and you only got about 5 or 10 minutes to yourself and then you're going straight to work, it's kind of difficult, to set clear boundaries between what is work and what is personal. So for me, typical day, I'd like to have an hour in between, get in my first meeting around, let's say, 9:30 a.m. Because of the position that I'm in a lot of calls almost every day, anywhere from 5 to 10 calls. But I also don't like to do back-to-back meetings because it's really difficult to digest all the information. For example, when you're working with a client that's working with a nonprofit, and then you're 5 minutes later working with a client that's trying to figure out, well, how do I drive more revenue? Here's what I have. Or, going from a client that's working with hospitals to a client that's doing door-to-door sales with medical equipment, things like that, So having a good 30 minutes in between, maybe even an hour to digest and whatnot. And then also after work, having a couple of hours. Again, the position I'm in, I work late quite a bit, but this year I'm really getting to a point where I want to replicate what we were doing the first quarter of last year, which is really having proper structures and boundaries in place. Because sometimes the phone doesn't stop ringing even after 6 p.m. Typical day right now, though, back-to-back meetings. Having roughly about 20 minutes in between those meetings, 30 minutes in between those meetings, getting work done. But again, even after that's done, there's always so many other things to do, But yeah, a lot of calls right now, a lot of meetings with the team internally to make sure the projects are moving forward, to make sure development is progressing, and also, working with partnerships and whatnot to make sure that we have the latest technology and that we're also making sure our clients get the best access to our knowledge.
Yeah, it's a good point you make actually about that. I think, and it's a curse of remote working. I think is that I've been working, I think, remotely now for 9-10 years. So even before it was cool. Before it was cool, for all the kids who are doing it. But actually, the one thing I do sometimes miss is that actually that half an hour drive commute to work is where you could wake up, and then on the flip side, coming home, you could actually digest the day and not walk into the door with the kids and the family and go, I've had a day from hell, but yet you've managed to actually decompress that. So that's a really good point, and I think that's something people should do, because I think it's very easy to go, I'm just going to roll out of bed and into that meeting, and I'm guilty of that still sometimes when with an early call, and you're like, then you feel like I've not actually started. Yeah,
my room's upstairs, literally. My this is my office. My room is right upstairs. I like to say that working from home has got a lot of pros. I would never want to change it because I don't want to get stuck in the Atlanta traffic for an hour every day, an hour there, an hour back, But there's also the boundaries that need to be put, right? That's why I put doors in my office. It wasn't mainly because of my kids running in and out. It was really, I want a clear separation between what's my office and what's my house, But yeah.
Yeah. I've experienced that Atlanta traffic last month. We were over for the event, so yeah, going from the event to the airport took us a good hour to go through that Atlanta traffic. Yeah, yeah,
but that's without an accident, man. When accidents happen,
we had a clear.
Even worse.
Yeah, we had a clear run, to be fair, so it wasn't too bad. So far would you say is a highlight or a couple of highlights of your sort of career to date?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great question. The biggest highlight to my career has been taking a business, a brand new business that nobody even knew was possible, and working with a client who trusted us enough to share our vision with us into almost like a market disruptor, where we then created an MVP in Salesforce within about a month and a half to within month 3, we already had a market. We already had it out in the market, people utilizing it. It was something that did not exist. It was something that they had to go through a lot of lawyers and whatnot to actually be able to ensure that they weren't breaking any rules and regulations, because it was just so out of the box. Taking something like that, working hours and hours and hours after work to ultimately bring that to life, and seeing the actual use of that and actual like real world impact, even for me and my business. Is basically a business that helps smaller companies that may not have a lot of employees or consultants get health insurance, right? So for me, for example, I didn't have health insurance. I'm actually using the tool that I built for my own health insurance. And when I went in there, it was literally beginning of this year. I go in there and I sign up, and I was like, oh, this is easy. And I was like, wait, we built this. I was like, this is awesome. And I'm not just saying that because we built it. It's because I went in there and within about 20, 30 clicks, I already had a package built for myself, and I already had a document signed, and my insurance cards literally arrived like 2 or 3 days ago. And that was just so amazing to me, because I know how expensive health insurance is. I know when I try to go and go through the traditional market, I was going to have to pay way too much money for health insurance. And I was like, I got to find some sort of alternative. And this was just so perfect, and it's still the regular health insurance I'd have if I was working for your typical W-2 job. Biggest impact. And, taking a client's work, seeing something that normally takes 50 hours and we automate it and have it take 2, or having an instance with a client where they had a vendor drop them, and that was the core of their business. They got dropped by their vendor and they needed to have a tool because that was the core of their business. And we built something that would have normally taken 6 months. We put an MVP together within about a month. I didn't sleep, but the fact that it was actually usable and they were no longer stressed, I could see their stress level coming down, totally worth it.
It's interesting. So speaking to various people, I know from myself as well, I think those highlights are normally coincide with a happy customer somewhere, or feeling that you've really added an impact to that customer. And I think that's where I think we're all here to help our customers rest easy at night, or whatever that small part of that is. That's what we're here for. So I think that's a really good highlight and something to be super proud of, for sure. So I link to that as well, then that's the highlight. But what does that also then go into, like, what your favorite part of your job is, if you had to sort of name it down?
That would be tied to it. What I really love about my job is really getting to know my clients. I get in rooms with people that I never would have been in if I wasn't in consulting. Being able to have access to CEOs and people who have 15, 20 years of experience over me and asking questions. A lot of times, we bring our technical expertise to our clients, but they're bringing in their expertise all around different areas, like how to manage a business. How do you deal with conflict? How do you deal with instances where, somebody's trying to take advantage of you? How to be aware of that? How to be meek enough, to be open to new relationship, but not foolish enough to allow yourself to be taken advantage of. Now, the hands down though, the best part of my job was very recently. I had somebody who I kid you not, their daily job is to do about 35 hours worth of work doing something that can be automated, but it's not something that can be easily automated. It's relating to taxes, it's relating to payroll, it's relating to a bunch of different areas. We're at a point now where all of that is automated. They click a button, they're spending about an hour, call it 5 hours in a week, just reviewing the data the system regenerated. We're actually using PDF Butler for that as well. They're just reviewing the data that the system generated rather than having to spend all the time generating the data, having somebody else review it, making sure it looks good, making typos, making mistakes. That's hands down being the best. Because the person before wasn't able to take too much time off because there was nobody else that could do it. Now the system's automated. There's other people now because it's become so simple. It's no longer a tool that's being gatekept by one individual person, not because she wanted to, but because it was just so difficult to explain it. Now they've got an entire team working through it, and now they're able to actually scale because now this person doesn't have to spend 40 hours a week working on that one task. They had other, 90 other things they have to do. Now they can focus on that. That's the
I think that absolutely, and I think that ties in that automation, that AI is that where I think some people are scared of it, but that's a prime example of where that automation or AI can really help is to actually free up those people to do other tasks that need to be done and not tied to this sort of almost a medial task that is just being done manually. That can be quite a painful process. So yeah.
The biggest thing, Luke, is people just going into AI real quick. People like AI is not an enemy. AI is a tool, just like any other tool. AI is just like any other programming language. Make use of it. Don't be against it. Make use of it. Help it make your job easier. If it's something that normally took you an hour and you see an opportunity for it to take you 30 minutes, great. Maybe you get those 30 minutes to breathe or 30 minutes to work on something else. That's the way I see it.
Yeah, I agree. And with the AI topic, it's like, when electricity was first made, people were scared of that. And then when the internet came, people were scared of that. So every generation or every 10 years, there's something that comes around that everyone's going, oh my God, it's going to take jobs, or the Industrial Revolution, all these things that they came, but we adapted as humans. We adapted to it, and I don't think it is terminated. The machines aren't taking over, but they are going to make they're going to make our lives more efficient, hopefully, and that's the plan, because same as you, I bet there's lots of tasks that we get stuck doing that actually some AI could help us, and then we can actually do some more strategic stuff or other things like that actually add more value, but we're stuck doing these things because we have to do them, where they're not necessarily what we want to do, but we have to do them. Similar to your example with that saving that 35 hours of manual work. They don't want to do it, but there's no other way to do it.
Absolutely.
So we thought AI and Salesforce is interesting. So as we know, with Salesforce and an agent force coming up, etc. How do you approach sort of staying current with all the Salesforce updates, and then using that updates as well to help tailor the solutions for your ever evolving customer needs?
Yep. There's a combination, right? There's the reactive and the proactive piece. When something comes out, going on to reading articles about it. There's a lot of people who dedicate their time to really sharing that knowledge, and you have to thank them for it, and also take advantage of it. They're doing it because they care about the ecosystem that we have within Salesforce. So for me, again, there's a proactive and the reactive part. The more proactive area is going out there, reading an article before the technology is even applicable to you. The other reactive part is that I really try not to get into is, okay, I have a specific problem. It was normally solved this way, but now I see there's some new tools that got released. Can I use that to solve the problem instead? Making use of those things, making use of, never being afraid to solve a problem just because you don't necessarily know if you have those tools available. Go out there, do your research. Salesforce is so good at doing so many updates to the platform that a lot of times when you think you need to build something, you may do a little bit of research and realize it's already out there, it's already available. All you got to do is, iterate on it, make use of it, and maybe even make it a little better for your own. But yeah, again, there's the proactive and the reactive part. I usually try to go on the more proactive, but sometimes, let's face it, we get busy and we end up with a more reactive piece of it.
And there's so much updates as well. I think that's the, with all the different products that Salesforce have, it's nearly impossible to, because I am quite out of touch when it comes to like Marketing Cloud, because we just don't work in it massively.
Yep.
Like Sales Cloud, everything else is fine, but then I guess sometimes as well as what I found is like sort of don't try to know everything about Salesforce, because I think that's impossible. I think that's there's definitely people out there who know, and that's where the community I think is so good with Trailblaze and etc. I think it all helps as well massively.
Absolutely, and you definitely can't be in a spot where you have to be the master of all trades. Like for me, I know my limits. I don't know enough about Marketing Cloud. I know sales, I know service, and I know a lot of the customizations that go into the tool. And being honest about it, it really helps, because a lot of times you may even get update fatigue. Or like, wow, like, well, I just learned this. Now there's something new. Technology is always evolving, and you do need to be on top of it, but you don't have to be on top of every little thing, because there has to be a balance where it doesn't become detrimental to the work you're doing.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, there's an awful lot in there. So talking obviously like from the consultancy point of view, and something that I've done in the past as well, but obviously juggling multiple different client projects, etc. What strategies do you put in place to help manage those multiple sort of different client projects you've got going on while still delivering that high quality results? I know you've talked about making sure try not to have too many back-to-back meetings, etc. But are there any other strategies that you put in place to try to sort of keep the focus?
Yeah, absolutely. The biggest thing is eliminating any distractions in my room. I don't have any TVs. I usually keep my phone off my office, usually keep it on mute. It just rang a few minutes ago. I had to block it. But the biggest thing for me is putting the right people in the right place. I can't do everything by myself. If everything was centered around me, that means that if I go on vacation, that everything pauses, and we can't have that. So having people that I trust, having people that have been working with me now for years, letting my clients know, hey, I wouldn't be putting this person here if I didn't trust them. And because you trust me, I just need you to extend that a little further and trust this person as well. And also not, being an assistant to your team rather than delegating and just telling them, here, do this, but making yourself available to help them get through their day. Because if it's difficult for you, it's very likely difficult for them as well. So positioning yourself in such a way where you're really there to help them, it really helps your clients ultimately. I also do a lot of regular check-ins with my clients. For example, if the client requested something and it's a big project, let's say it takes 6 months, I'm not going to wait till the 5th month to show them the progress. We typically take a more coworker approach with my clients. We go hand in hand and we say, hey, here's what we're thinking to do. Here's how we're going to approach it. What do you think? Does that align with your business needs, right? Because the last thing you want is a client expecting you to go left and you end up going right. And now you have a month before the deadline, and it turns out what you were building was completely wrong. So weekly, sometimes daily, depending on the project, constant check-ins with the client, and then also delegating to the right individuals, but also making yourself available to them. I always let my team know, hey, don't be afraid to ask a question. If you don't know the answer, I'd rather you ask me. And also be prepared, because I'm operating almost as the client myself. So when I'm asking something of you, I'm going to look at it from my client's lens before you and I both present it, to make sure it's going through that level of, acceptance and quality, to make sure before it gets to them, we've eliminated maybe 9 or 8 out of the 10 things they might have been able to call out.
Yeah, it's interesting. Actually, you raised a couple of good things that jogged my memory there as well. I remember reading a book once. I've forgotten what it's called now, but it was in and around about as a CEO, but basically making sure that the company could work without you. That the business can work almost without you. You don't actually need to be there. And I think so that's to your point of making sure that you can take those holidays, those vacations, and the business carries on. You're not the bottleneck to the process, which I think in a lot of small companies, and we have some of these issues ourselves, where sometimes people become a bottleneck, not because they're of any other reason. It's just the way, the nature of it sometimes. So I think that's a really good point, that you can manage to have that trust in those people and delegate that stuff out.
It's not easy, Luke. It's not easy. There's times where, mistakes are made. We're not perfect. And the real world is so messy. It's so messy. And the best you can do is be ready to answer for it. Be ready to answer for your mistakes. Be ready to answer for your successes. And don't get too hung up, because a lot of times, your successes of last year, they will translate, but more in muscle memory. They don't necessarily translate if you're not on top of your things consistently, Before I ever created Lightning Lead Consulting, I actually used to call the business manage expectations. but that was more a reminder to myself, because from other businesses, a lot of times, it's not about how you start, but it's about how you finish and how you maintain. And a lot of times you might find yourself running out of gas, and you might start finding yourself failing yourself in the things that you said you would do. So it's a good reminder to always remember why you started this whole thing and why your clients gave you their commitment in the first place. Most of our clients, they've been with us for years. A lot of my day one clients are still with us, and they've grown tremendously.
Yeah, and that's a true reflection of you and the team. If customers stick with you, then you're doing something right, for sure. That's the biggest compliment a customer can do, is to stay with you, for sure.
Absolutely.
That's absolutely, yes. That, for me, that's it. Okay, so moving on a little bit. So if someone wanted to become a successful Salesforce consultant, what sort of key insights or skills would you emphasize that they gain, they sort of collect?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll tell you this, for me, this may be sort of contrary to your typical business. We're not revenue driven. We're by no means a nonprofit, but we are not revenue driven. I myself am a person that I don't operate with debt. I'm debt free. And that opens up so many doors, because I don't have to operate with this sort of hound behind my back looking to get payments and interest or high bills. What I mean by that is, for example, when I first started consulting, I wasn't making a dime. I was doing it for fun. I started consulting because I really thought that, hey, I'm a problem solver, and I think somebody could really benefit from me solving those problems. So even now, we're more relationship driven, relationship focused. Like every other business, we have to make a living, right? We have to make a profit, but we don't operate with that profit in mind. That's why a lot of times when I'm pitching solutions to our clients, we're not really trying to sell them on something. Oh, come on, let me do this. More like, hey, here's a solution that I think could help, but if you have something else in mind that maybe costs 50% less, let's do that. I'm not here to be a bill to you. I'm here to actually be an asset to you. So if there was somebody who was starting where I started, again, my advice would probably be very different. If they were starting as an individual, I would say go out there and solve problems. Solve problems, and if you've already identified your market, even better. But don't be afraid. Don't expect to get your top dollar on day one. My first 2 years, I mean, if I averaged out what I was making, maybe $10 an hour, maybe $5. But again, I wasn't doing it for money. I was really doing it to make, to build a resume, to build that muscle. Because every time you get a problem, it's almost like climbing a mountains. As you get higher up, it might get harder and harder to climb. And sometimes they get bigger and bigger. And sometimes you think, I can't solve this. But then you take a step back and you're like, you know what? I did this last year and it was way harder than this. Surely we can solve this. Because what happens a lot of times is that your real enemy is yourself. You might start doubting yourself. And then you end up in a process of, you start freezing and not really making progress in things that really need to be done. So to answer your question and to keep it sort of long story short, I operate from, if I was to start this from day one, I would do it the same way. All our growth has been organic, and it's just been through clients, word of mouth, maybe me going out there marketing to potential clients, but it's been through relationships, really great reviews. 95% of our clients have nothing but positive things to say about us, and that's more than enough for me. Biggest thing again is putting yourself in a position to learn. You don't know everything. Don't lie about what you know. Be honest about what you know. You don't have to fake it till you make it. Be yourself. Your people will find you.
No, I think, and that's great advice, and I think that's true. And I think you touched upon it earlier as well, is about ask questions. I think for sure, don't be afraid not to know. And I think sometimes we all get hung up as, I don't want to look stupid. And I think I've always said, so when I've hired people, there's no such thing as a stupid question. All right, maybe if you start asking the same question 4 or 5 times, I start to get a little bit concerned. Yeah. But I think genuine questions, like just ask the question, because sometimes that conversation you're just not understanding what the requirement was, and asking the questions, you go, now I understand, what it is. And I think that's key, definitely. I think ask the questions.
The biggest thing too, I had a job as IT, I was like an IT help desk professional. And I got fired from that job years and years ago. And what I learned from that was trust. Like when somebody loses their trust in you and they don't think you have the ability to deliver, there's very little you can do about it. So rather than allowing things to get to that point, always be proactive and think, okay, is this gonna foster trust with my clients? Hey, I estimated this project was gonna take 50 hours. Maybe it takes 52. Is it really worth you going to that client, letting them know, hey, those extra 2 hours, are they really worth you going back to that client and trying to haggle them for an extra 2 hours? Or is that relationship worth more? The way I see it is, look, I'm a consultant, I'm a third party. The only way I know what's going on in my clients' businesses is if they allow me to, right? I usually have one or two people who are my points of contacts. I might be a CEO or maybe a VP. If they give me a task, I want to make them look good. I want to make them look good. I want to be an asset to them, right? And that's another thing that's really helped us get to where we are today.
No, that's good. Yeah, I think that trust is important. I think trust, accountability, all those things are what people are looking for. And okay, we talked a lot about AI, and it's very, very important, etc. But actually, it comes back to some of those old school methods that people still buy from people. So it doesn't matter how much AI is in there. It's that person, and that relationship is what maintains that commercial business relationship, is the human to human relationship. And I mean, that's important. That cannot be replaced by AI. That will not be replaced by AI in any stretch of the imagination. So I think that's key. So I'd be amiss not to ask you a couple of questions related in and around PDF Butler. So Lightning Leap and PDF Butler are partners. So I'd be amiss not to ask you a little bit how you're finding things with us over the last year or so. So how has PDF Butler helped sort of streamline or even enhance sort of working with your customers?
So many ways. And I genuinely mean that. I absolutely love working with PDF Butler. Anytime I have a question, sometimes I'm on at 10 p.m. I don't mean to be. I'm working on it. I'm just human, right? But sometimes I'm on at 10 p.m. working on something and I get stuck and I was like, that shouldn't be happening. Or, hey, maybe I need some extra help. Let me ask. Well, I'll message your support team. And I kid you not, most of the time within 30 minutes, sometimes within 5 minutes, somebody will reply back and say, hey, check out this article. Or they'll say, hey, that's actually going to be released next month. And I was like, well, perfect. I can work around that. I didn't have to spend 5 hours trying to figure it out. Somebody who's more of an expert than even I am with PDF Butler, having more of the back-end information, could just help me answer those questions. I'll give you an example. That client that I was telling you where the work was taking 30 hours, about 60% of that was us building a custom React Native application. But the other 40, PDF Butler. They used to generate those Excel sheets manually, typing in things, and then clients would be like, hey, are you guys doing this manually? Because I'm noticing typos on these things. Why are we having typos, right? It's an automated, it's a process that's always the same, right? So we were using PDF Butler. Clients are using PDF Butler to invoice their own clients, right? Not only to charge. And the biggest one, though, is that other client that I was telling you about where they do health insurance. We actually partnered with the PDF Butler. They actually use PDF Butler to have all their documents signed, right? Because of the United States, depending on the state that you're located, you may have different documents that you need to fill out. Well, with PDF Butler, and guess what? We're using a flow. So with PDF Butler and a screen flow, we can say, oh, this person's located in Georgia. Okay, let's send them this package, which has got their own specific documents that are tailored to Georgia, or maybe somebody's located in California or any one of the other states, right? But to keep that long story short, we would not have been able to do that with a custom application. It would have taken entirely too much time. With PDF Butler, did it take time? Of course. I mean, it's 50 plus states, right? 50 plus packets of documents that we needed to do and generate. So we ultimately ended up using PDF Butler for that. And there's so many other areas with that. Like, for example, the relatively new tool you guys have, Contract Butler. I got stuck on it. It was, for me, I didn't necessarily fully understand it. I met with Igor and he helped me, him and the rest of the team. They really helped me get to that delivery point where now I can demo that to the client. I actually did a soft demo. See that our clients trust me so much, I can do a soft demo without it being perfect and they won't freak out. So I did a soft demo to a client earlier this week, actually. And they're like, if this is how it's going to work, we're good. We're good to go, right? I have the final demo actually today, a couple hours from now, to demo them the rest of PDF Butler. And very likely they're going to be moving to PDF Butler, Sign Butler, and Contract Butler to handle all their contract management. And we're talking about billions of dollars potentially annually that could grow into going through PDF Butler.
No, that's great. And I think you touched upon support. It's one thing that we're really proud of, the support team, and it makes a difference. And I think knowing that there's a lot of application stuff online, but all of our customers have got really specific use cases with PDF Butler. But that support being reactive, and you know that someone's going to give you an answer, and it's not just it's AI again. It's not just an automated response. It's actually a human going, oh yeah, here you go. Here's an article for it, and I think that really helps because PDF Butler is, it can be very complex. So therefore, you can get, we're building complicated documents and complicated processes, but sometimes you just, oh yeah, it's just this article. And so, there you go. It all makes sense now. So I think that's good. So yeah, the support team are definitely are heroes of us within our company for sure, out there, because they're the ones that are really interacting with the partners like yourself and the end customers as well. So that's good. Yeah.
Even then, one thing I like to add, Luke, is the price you guys are charging customers. The first time I saw that, I was like, there's no way this thing is that good for the right. And then I go in there and I use it, and I'm like, it's not just good, it's great. And not only that, you actually get a lot more than the competitors. You get a lot more value out of the application, like being able to, automatically have documents sent out for signature. Or for us with Contract Butler, we're actually using Apex to generate the HTML that'll ultimately be sent out. So now it's a dynamic. Every time a new product is added, it just generates in the table. And guess what? With HTML, right, you can do whatever you want, right? So there's really, the sky's the limit at that point.
Yeah, no, that's one thing that we definitely made a decision on very back, and the founder made a decision on, is that let's build this on Salesforce, because there is no better platform for it. So let's build it on Salesforce, and then the extendability that leads to is almost endless. So it just takes some clever people like yourselves, and you can extend it to as much as you need to do, and take it beyond where it sits today.
Absolutely.
For sure. So final question then. So I always like to end with this one. So what does your life look like outside of work? So how do you maintain that work-life balance with running a company, managing the people in the team, etc.? How do you juggle that? Because I think it's tough, because Lightning Leap is your baby, and it's hard to step away from it. So how do you manage that?
Yep, absolutely. So what I found, and it was really heartwarming to me, is that my clients, when I tell them, hey, I can't go today, or I can't be there today because my kid's got a basketball game, or I can't be there because my daughter's got an event at school, they surprisingly are like actually rewarding me for it. They're like, oh, no, please go ahead and do it. Go. I need you at your A game. They really look out for me. Now the work-life balance, it's seasonal, I would say right now, but that's something I'm taking active steps to solve. Like, for example, next month I'm going to be working from my home country, Dominican Republic, for a couple of weeks, working fully remote, maybe working 4 days of the week and taking every Friday off just for about 2.5 weeks. Now, work-life balance right now, what I've learned very recently is that, when you're taking on a stress by working too much, it's not just you that's taking on that stress, it's your whole family. So before you go on and take all that stress, go ahead and ask them if they really want that. Because yes, Lightning Leap is my baby, but I have kids at home. And they're growing up quick, man. My son's already 7. My daughter's already 3. I remember it was yesterday when he was born. He's actually part of the reason why I dove into Salesforce. I saw so many opportunities, and I needed to be able to provide for them. But managing that work-life balance right now is going back to, hey, have at least an hour before you go into work. Have at least an hour or 2, 3 hours after work where you're able to actually go outside and breathe. It's not all about work. Work is going to be there tomorrow. If you have a team, especially if you have a team, for example, us, we have a team around the clock. I have an offshore team that works after I'm sleeping, and then we're back online after they're going to sleep. So if something can wait till tomorrow, have it wait till tomorrow. If something can't wait, be responsible about it. Either delegate it. The way that I see it, though, I never signed up for this to be a 9 to 5. So if I'm able to get 4 days of the week or 3 days of the week where I get off on time, I consider that a success. Because for me, I would rather sacrifice those extra 2 days to see the vision of my clients, or even my own vision, or help my team reach their goals, rather than, getting ultimately hung up on the typical saying, hey, I have to be up by 5. I'm trying to get to that point, though, because I've realized this year now, even the past few months, that all the work I've been doing has been great, but it does take its toll in different areas of our lives. And we really need to be able to know and give priority to where priority is due. Right, and work is not my number 1. It's not even my number 2. I probably put it at my number 3. So I need to make sure I remember that and live by it. Especially if things can wait till tomorrow. Because at the end of the day, we're not doctors. We're not saving lives here. So 90% of the time, things can wait till tomorrow.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I know what you mean about kids. Mine are 16 and 14 now, so yeah, they shoot up quickly. Yeah, they shoot up quickly for sure. And to be honest, I could do that Dominican sun. So we're recording this now in January, and I'm in the UK, and it's grey and cold. So it's like so it's grey and cold. So I could do with some of that Dominican sun for sure. So yeah, that sounds good. And yeah, the beauty of working remotely, yeah, we talked about sometimes it can be an issue balancing that, but then I remember when the kids were younger, being able just to go off to a recital at school and then come back. Yeah, I would then do a couple of hours once they've gone to bed, but that was worth the sacrifice to go and see them at school and be present. And I think that's what's important, is seeing, because you see kids at school when their parents can't make it because they are doctors, they're nurses, they can't get out of stuff. And we are fortunate in what we do when we can. So I think that's definitely doing. Well, Dave, thank you for your time. Absolute pleasure to chat to you, and it's great working with you and like Leap and your team. And yeah, we look forward to continue working with you forever until we're all grey and old and retired, and we've passed it on to our kids, probably where we are now. But yeah, thank you for that. Appreciate it, and yeah, and good luck for the rest of the year.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time, Luke. By the way, it's actually snowing here in Georgia right now. So it's cold. I'm looking forward to that warm sun. So if you want to come, let's go.
I'll come.
Thank you for your time.
I fit in the suitcase somehow. Yeah.
Yeah, let's go.
Awesome. Cheers. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Luke.
Cheers. Bye-bye.